Hello, Facebook, and hello, Instagram. And I'm from technical difficulties, but we made it, and we're here. And this is me, and next to me, you probably see two screens there. This is Stacey, and she is joining us from a city very close to us. You're in Calgary right now, aren't you?
That's right,
Maybe you were,
yes.
maybe you were visiting Edmonton, and I didn't know that. That's great. So let's start with this very quickly. Adriana from we're here, and today we are doing another session about
I think we might have a slow connection.
breastfeeding. Today, there's myself, and see there's a slow connection. Hopefully, we can continue this for the next at least 5 minutes.
Sure.
So we see. I am so glad that you're here. We're in Edmonton, and I just had to close my. There's so much sun coming in that so it is. And let's start. Stacey, tell us about your experience breastfeeding multiple. Like where when you before you were pregnant with twins. So did you did some research about breastfeeding? You didn't want to breastfeed. You thought you said, yes, I will do it. And then how that turn out when reality came? So tell us
Yeah, I
all.
think I had a pretty uneventful pregnancy, so I certainly had some time to do my research, and I definitely wanted to try to be able to breastfeed them because I knew that was kind of the recommendation. And certainly I had friends and people I'd heard that were doing it successfully, and I was a little bit concerned about the twins coming early, which is always a concern. And in the end, they did, and they ended up coming at 34 weeks, so they
The
were
lines
3.5 pounds and about 4.5 pounds each of them. And so with them being early, I think that kind of changed the game a little.
at all really. I can hear you. I just have to cut off the Instagram connection because it's not working very well, and I couldn't hear you very well. But you
Oh,
can
sorry. Yeah,
continue
it's been,
now. Yeah, it's a
yeah.
little bit
So
choppy, isn't it?
yeah, sorry. I don't know if that's me. I'm on country internet out here, so
Oh, maybe. That's okay. We can hear you.
sure. Yeah. So with the twins arriving early, I think it kind of changed the game. And, it's like with everyone, they have a birth plan and then sometimes it doesn't go according to plan. And I think that was my
Yeah.
experience that when they came and they were pretty little still, they needed a little bit more medical intervention than I was hoping for. And so they were supplemented before anyone even came and asked. It was just something that
Oh,
happened there. Yeah, so and I wouldn't have said no anyhow. It wasn't part of the plan, but I mean, when they're needing intervention because they're so little, it's not something I would have argued with them about.
that's right. So,
Yeah.
when they came along, did you had any support? Did you go on your own to find support? Did you got a lactation consultant? Did you have nurses? How was that?
Yeah, so my first introduction to kind of what my job was going to be, because they were in isolates, I wasn't able to hold them. I didn't have them in my room. They arrived at about I think about noon that day, and at
Okay.
about dinner time, maybe 5 o'clock, a nurse wheeled in a double electric breast pump and said, "Here, you better get started." So looking back, I
Ah,
think that was a gap of time as much as I had a kind of an emergency C-section, so you're recovering a little bit from that. What I know now, being in the industry, is that I should have been on a breast pump much sooner than that. And when I have clients now, I certainly say to them, there's research showing you should be getting either baby to breast, or if that's not possible, on a breast pump within the first hour after birth, when possible. And so
Yeah.
looking back, you always wish you could have done things differently, but I think that might have helped me to have a different start. But I pumped as much as I could, because that really was my only job. The nurses in the special care nursery called it liquid gold, and they would be thankful for any
Yes.
liquid gold that I'd shuffle down the hallway and bring them. So, I mean, when you
Yes.
think about not having the babies and not being responsible for, changing them and feeding them and stuff, your only job is to supply milk. And so that's how I
Of
looked at
course.
that. Yeah.
Yeah, of course. And that's probably your case. It happened quite a bit, actually. I'm
Yeah.
thinking that I have had experience that when I was a doula, of some situations in that twins, they're not all the time, but many times they come earlier, and you have to deal with all those issues. Yeah.
Yeah, and you have to be flexible. My clients
Yeah.
now, I tell them it is good to, gather all your information and know what your options are, but you also have to be flexible, because if you're going to be rigid with what your plan was, sometimes that adds to the stress, and it's
Yeah.
hard to react as things happen. So
Yeah.
I've when the twins are ready to come home, they stayed in the hospital for about 3 weeks. So in that 3 week period, I had a hospital grade breast pump at home, and then they had quite an elaborate milking station, we used to call it, in the special care nursery. And I would pump at home all night, collect the milk, bring it in with the labels for each of the babies, put it in the fridge there in the special care nursery, and then while I was visiting them, I would leave them to go to that pumping station to pump again. So I really was following the every kind of 3 to 4 hour recommendation, to try and get my supply up as high as I thought I could. And complications to that are when one baby comes home and one stays in the hospital. I had that for
Yes.
about challenging to be able to supply milk to 2 babies in 2 different locations at the same time.
Yes.
But
Wow.
I knew they were being supplemented, and so that did take some of the pressure off. But
Yeah, of
I did
course.
want to have as much breast milk as possible, so I definitely felt like that was my job in those early couple of weeks. Was I had very few other jobs that were nearly as important as producing as much milk as I could.
Of course, of course. Stacey,
Yeah.
if you were talking with someone, let's say a mom that is expecting twins or triplets, and she's doing her research and thinking about, okay, I think I am going to give it a try to this. Do you have any advice, any tips, one or two things that you think, as you say, I might have done this differently, or something that you did and it was a success in your breastfeeding relationship with your children?
Yeah, well, I think that having a hospital grade breast pump on hand is essential, even if it's not part of your plan, even if you think you're going to rarely use it. I think when you're trying to feed 2 babies and your time
Yeah.
is even that much more compressed, when you're double pumping on an efficient breast pump, once your milk supply has come in, that can be about a 15-minute session versus trying to single pump and use something that's maybe not quite as powerful.
Yeah.
I know, it's a different financial commitment and whatnot when you think about what kind of breast pump you might want to have on hand. But
Yeah.
I think that having kind of the most powerful, the most efficient is worthwhile, at least in the early days. And
Of
then,
course.
my other advice, and I share this all the time, is to be flexible and,
Mhm.
be educated, know what the options are, know what the benefits and the risks are. But in the end, the healthcare professionals, in my experience, were doing what was best for the twins. And I had to
Yes.
trust that they had seen low birth weight before and that they knew
Yeah.
how to manage that. And I certainly was encouraged to breastfeed them, but it wasn't exclusive to the point of me feeling like I couldn't do anything else. So I think that's important.
Yeah, exactly. So this
Yeah.
leads you to you seems to be very experienced in all this area. And you and I were talking a while ago about this volunteer work that you have been doing with some moms that had twins, and some of them might breastfeed, some not. I just wanted to
Yeah.
ask you, with moms that they were decided to breastfeed or they were trying pumping, what was your experience with that? And what is, your experience about being a volunteer and helping in that area?
Yeah. I feel like I had such a positive experience with, I spent
Mm.
the last year with a family that had twin girls, and the their mom was the perfect example, I thought, of a mom who was able to breastfeed both of them. There were certainly challenges along the way, but she managed those challenges. When us as volunteers, when we would go in to support her, it was more of maybe getting the babies to sleep, diapering, playing, that sort of thing. But when it came to feeding, that was her job, and she took it very seriously. I think
Yes.
in many cases, she definitely put them first in terms of she wouldn't be able to leave the house for more than an hour or two because really nobody else could feed them. I know she tried to get them to take breast milk via a bottle, but of course, some babies don't want to do that. Once they've had the breast, that's all they want, and she didn't want to fight them on that, and so
Of
she just said, if
course.
that's their preference, then I'll make it work. And she had enough supply not only to feed the two of them, but to have milk in the
Hmm.
fridge and freezer for the volunteers to try and feed them when we could. So it was an excellent
Wow.
example of how it can work.
Absolutely. Was she pumping as well?
She did, yeah. She had the hospital grade breast pump, and that's how she would express extra milk to store for family and friends and volunteers to help her feed them.
That's
But
right.
with the baby, she I would say breastfed them probably 95% of the time.
Wow. Well, this leads me to the last question I was going to ask you because, as you know, Stacey, she is not only a busy mom, but she's also the owner of One Tiny Suitcase, which is a company, baby rental equipment company. And one of those items is actually pumps.
Yeah.
And she's an expert on pumps. She knows everything about pumps. So I wanted to ask you, for a mom of multiples, what are your suggestions in terms of choosing the right pump? And also, you for the experience that you have, is there a possibility for mothers to do these rentals ahead of time, like many months before babies are born, just to prepare for that? Would you explain a little bit about your services?
Yeah, so I'm an authorized rental station for Medela hospital grade breast pumps. It's been important to me in my business to carry a product that mums are familiar with, and the
Yeah.
majority of the hospitals provide the Medela product, the hospital grade breast pump, in the special care nurseries, the NICUs, the maternity wards. So I wanted to carry the pump that many of my clients, they've seen before.
Yes.
Some of them have used them at the hospital, and so that hospital grade pump to me is kind of heads and tails above, kind of some of the other we call them personal use pumps, ones you can purchase that are maybe a little bit smaller, maybe single pumps. In terms of efficiency, and especially for mums of multiples, I think it's important to have a really high quality double pump, at least in the
Yeah.
first couple of months. I always say to my clients, give it a month or two and then decide what you want to do. But I often talk to them about protecting their supply, because I think in the
Yes.
early days, you have to be so consistent with your pumping schedule to get, kind of the maximum yield you can, that messing around with something that's maybe inefficient is dangerous to your
Yeah.
supply in some ways. You wouldn't want to risk that. So I love that part of the business. I love seeing new moms. I love seeing them, kind of within the first couple of days of birth. I feel really lucky to be able to be invited into people's houses when, they're bringing a brand new baby home. Sometimes I'm there before grandmas come.
Yes.
And yeah, for some of the clients that call early on and want some advice about how to prepare, we will take reservations for the hospital grade pumps
Yes.
as well, because that means that about 2 weeks prior to mom's due date, we start holding a pump aside so
Of
that
course.
if the baby or babies arrive early, we still have that pump ready to go. Because again, it's so time sensitive. You can't
Yeah.
really wait a couple of days and search the city trying to find an available pump. You need it when you need it. And we're really responsive, as quickly as we can be, because we know what's at stake.
That's right.
Yeah.
Well, Stacey, I cannot thank you enough for all this information that you gave us about breastfeeding multiples and also about pumping. And can you tell us where people can find you? If they have any questions, they can actually add on the thread, and then we can pass them to you, or they can contact you directly. Can you
Sure.
tell us how people can find you?
Yeah, the website is onetinysuitcase.com. They can email me info@onetinysuitcase.ca. All of my contact details are there on the web, but I'd be happy to share my experience. And in 11 and a half years of business, I kind of have accumulated my clients' experience as well. And I'm always happy to share that anonymously, of
Yes.
course, but
I know you have awesome stories. I have heard some of them, and they're wonderful. Okay,
thank
well,
you so
I
much.
won't take you more time, and I won't take anyone else more time. But thank you so much, Stacey, for joining us. It was really, really, really useful, all this information that you provided to us, and hopefully we can see you again very soon.
Excellent. It was
Okay?
good to see you virtually.
Okay. Yes. Okay, bye. Bye, everyone. We'll see you
Take care.
next week. Bye-bye. Take care.
Bye.